Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the most revered chapters of the Quran, Surah Yaseen. Now, we aren't just going to do a basic surface-level reading here. No, we're going to unpack its profound depths using Maulana Maududi's incredibly famous exegesis, the Tahfeem ul-Quran. We really want to uncover exactly why this specific text holds such a prestigious title in Islamic tradition, and how Maududi masterfully breaks down its logic, its warnings, and honestly, its undeniable beauty. So let's get into it.
Everything has a heart, and the heart of the Quran is Yaseen. Maududi actually kicks things off by citing this famous hadith right at the outset, and it instantly establishes the immense spiritual weight of this chapter. I mean, think about what a heart literally does, right? It pumps life-giving blood to the entire body. Well, in the exact same way, Surah Yaseen contains the vital, pulsating core of the entire Quranic message. It's not just a collection of verses, it's the central rhythmic beat of the faith.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering the heart of the Quran, prophethood and spiritual blindness, the parable of the city, signs in the universe, and finally, the inevitable final judgment.
Part 1. The heart of the Quran and the three pillars of argument.
To truly grasp what's going on here, we really have to set the scene. This surah was revealed during the late Makkah period. This was a time when the Islamic message was facing some intensely hostile opposition. To break through all that noise, Maulana Maududi points out that the surah builds its entire foundation on three absolutely crucial pillars: Tawheed, which is the absolute oneness of God; Risalat, the truth of prophethood; and Akhirat, the reality of the hereafter. And Maududi makes a great point here. The surah doesn't just list these out as dry facts. It powerfully argues for them. It uses history, nature, and pure logic to cut right through the fierce opposition of that era.
Moving to Section 2, Prophethood and Spiritual Blindness, focusing on the metaphors of denial.
When addressing the fierce, outright rejection from the prophet's immediate audience, the imagery used in verses 8 and 9 is, frankly, incredibly intense. It describes people with heavy iron yokes, literally forced around their necks, pushing their heads permanently upward, right up to their chins. And then, it speaks of massive, impenetrable barriers erected right in front of them and right behind them, covering them up completely so they can't see a single thing.
Now, you might be wondering, what does this all mean? Well, the crucial takeaway is how Maududi interprets this terrifying imagery. He clarifies that we aren't talking about literal, physical iron chains or actual brick walls here. Actually, scratch that, it's way deeper. They are brilliant metaphors for psychological shackles. The yokes represent human arrogance and ego. When someone is just so prideful they absolutely refuse to bow their head to the truth. And those barriers, they represent deep-seated prejudice and blind tradition that completely block a person's vision. Maududi explains that when people willingly lock themselves in these kinds of psychological traps, they render themselves entirely, completely blind to reality.
Which brings us to Section 3, the parable of the city, and the lesson of Ashab al-Qarya.
At this point, the surah shifts gears from abstract metaphors to a very concrete, historical case study of a rebellious civilization, a city which ancient commentators actually often identify as Antioch. Notice how this narrative builds up dramatically. First, two messengers arrive at the city, but they're immediately rejected. Second, a third messenger is sent to back them up, but the arrogance of the city just refuses to budge. Third, the townspeople don't just reject them, they actually threaten to violently stone the messengers to death. But then, and this is the turning point, event number 4 happens. A solitary, brave man comes running from the absolute farthest end of the city, pleading with his people to just follow the truth. His courage is highlighted so beautifully in the text. Tragically, though, they kill him, and that leads to the 5th event, the chilling climax. The entire town is utterly destroyed.
Maududi really emphasizes the tragic consequence of this rejection. You see, their destruction didn't require massive, sweeping armies or some prolonged, drawn-out siege. It was simply a seha, a single, overwhelming blast from the sky that wiped out the entire civilization in a flash. It's a pretty sobering reminder, honestly, that all human arrogance can just be extinguished in a fraction of a second.
Section 4. Signs in the Universe and the Evidence from Nature.
So having warned us through the lens of history, the surah pivots to the physical world right around us. Just think about this contrast. On one hand, you have dead, barren, cracked earth, totally lifeless. But then, on the other hand, you have lush gardens teeming with grain, fruit, and flowing springs. Maududi explains that the logic at play here is flawlessly simple. The creator who effortlessly transforms dead, dry dirt into vibrant, pulsating life every single spring, well, he can easily resurrect mankind from the dust after they die. The proof of resurrection is quite literally happening right beneath our feet.
From there, the text lifts our gaze from the earth straight up to the sky. The celestial verses beautifully describe how the sun runs to its designated resting place and how the moon progresses through its phases until it returns to looking like an old, withered date stalk. It's such a perfect, vivid visual for a crescent moon, isn't it?
But I want us to focus specifically on Maududi's breakdown of a single fascinating Arabic term here, falak. This is really where classical scripture and modern understanding intersect in such a cool way. Maududi explains that falak refers to the literal orbits or galaxies in which these massive celestial bodies float. The surah states that the sun cannot overtake the moon, nor can the night outpace the day. Each just floats in its own falak. Maududi emphasizes this incredible scientific and theological harmony. Just think about it. The fact that billions of stars and planets move with flawless, absolute divine precision without crashing into each other, it completely, utterly shatters the idea of a random, unguided universe.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, the inevitable final judgment and the day of true accountability.
After laying down all this rock-solid evidence from human history and the cosmos itself, the surah drives its argument to a really powerful conclusion. And I want you to genuinely imagine this terrifying reality for a second. Imagine standing in a divine courtroom, totally ready to spin a web of excuses, ready to justify every wrong thing you've ever done, only to find that you physically cannot speak. Your mouth is completely sealed shut. What happens then?
Maududi's chilling commentary on these climactic verses explains exactly what happens. On that day, human mouths will be sealed shut. But the trial doesn't just end there. No, instead, our own hands will speak, and our own feet will bear witness to what we earned in life. Maududi points out that sure, you might be able to deceive the courts of this world with some clever words, but on the day of judgment, your own biological limbs will testify against you. There is absolutely zero room for deception.
Ultimately, that is exactly why Yaseen is the heart of the Quran. It completely strips away our arrogance, it presents undeniable evidence from the universe, and it forces us to face our ultimate accountability. So the question that Tahfeem al-Quran leaves us with is profound. Will we break our psychological chains and wake up to this reality before our mouths are sealed and that final trumpet sounds? It's something we all need to deeply, deeply reflect on. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning and keep questioning.